Hey there, this is Mr. Icarus, and welcome to yet another edition of Doom Mod Madness. This time around, we're checking out a gameplay mod by the name of Terrorists, or to give it the proper pronunciation, Terrorists! Because it's got an exclamation mark at the end. You have to yell it, but you may also notice that this is a mod featuring some interesting enemy types, and these enemies are actually taken from a little something called Tech War. You all remember Tech War, right? Don't blame me if you don't. It's a video game which was based on a mid-90s TV series, which in turn was based on a mid-90s series of novels written by none other than William Shatner. It was spectacularly mediocre and was developed by the infamous Capstone Software, who brought us such wonderful titles as Operation Body Count, the original one, not the actual good remake, and Witch Haven 2? Blood Vengeance? Thankfully, save for the usage of sprites, this has absolutely nothing in common with Capstone Software or Tech War. In fact, this is actually legitimately entertaining to play, and I feel that's largely down to the fact that this was created by none other than Wild Weasel, creator of other rather entertaining mods such as Cola, which I have covered previously here on Doom Mod Madness. In fact, it's fortunate that I bring up Cola because both Cola and Terrorists actually share a common thread in terms of core gameplay mechanics. In Cola, you could upgrade your weaponry through downing enemies and collecting the bubbles that they leave behind. The kicker being, if the enemies damage you, you'd lose those bubbles and run the risk of leveling your weapons down. In Terrorists, a similar mechanic is in play, but it's much simplified. Rather than collecting bubbles, you simply kill your enemies, and the meter below the weapon in the bottom right will begin to fill. You have to continuously use a weapon to improve it, but taking hits from your enemies does not cause that progress to degrade. Generally speaking, this means that Terrorists allows you to be a heck of a lot more gung-ho than the likes of Cola. Just make sure not to shoot the hostages, because yes, those are indeed a thing. In fact, hostages replace a number of key power-ups that you'd normally come across during a standard map run, such as Berserker Packs, Soul Spheres, and Invisibility Spheres. But as you can tell, the drops from these are not quite the same. In this case, we've received an upgrade to our melee, which allows us to do a triple kick, now finishing with a roundhouse spinning kick, which is just, pretty badass. But if you continue to upgrade the melee, it just gets more ridiculous from there, with the next level adding a shockwave effect to the spinning kick, and the max level effect adding explosions. For those of you out there less enamored with the idea of kicking your enemies in the face with explosions and wanting to focus more on your guns, you may find that the weapons here can occasionally take quite a while to get leveled up, and that's where another hostage does come very much in handy, that one in particular dropping a wholesale upgrade for whatever weapon you're currently wielding. A few of you out there may be thinking, well, if you can upgrade your guns and you can upgrade your ability to kick people in the face, then surely there should be a provision for upgrading your grenades. Well, guess what? Yes, there is. Terrorists is truly a mod that provides, and the map pack which I'm currently playing on, which is Valiant, also provides crowds of enemies for you to chuck said grenades into, thus making the upgrade process whiz by a hell of a lot quicker. If you're wondering just how far you can go with the upgrade process here, you should know that you can upgrade the grenades a total of 3 additional times, the first of which grants access to the frag grenades, which I'm currently wielding here. It gives you fragmentation particles on the explosion, and also gives you additional splash damage. The next level up, which I'm actually quite close to attaining right now, grants you access to the high voltage grenades, an interesting twist that has 2 distinct effects. It deals electrical damage as well as stunning your enemies, very useful for pinning down crowds and very useful for immobilizing potentially troublesome enemies. The third and final upgrade to your grenades will turn them into incendiary grenades, which on detonation will cause any nearby enemies to become aflame and run around like they're, well, on fire, and also leave behind persistent flame that will damage enemies that come into contact with it. When it comes to the upgrade system regarding the actual weapons themselves here in Terrorists, you'll find that the upgrade track is a lot more subdued than what the grenades or the melee system may imply. In fact, a lot of the upgrades that you'll encounter for the vast majority of weapons here are largely quality of life upgrades, the kind of thing that reduces spread on a shotgun, for example, or reduces recoil, or increases mag capacity. You're not really going to find anything expressly goofy here, considering everything's trying to keep in line with the theme of Hollywood realism. But now we reach the part of the video that I feel is going to be the trickiest for me to cover, because I need to accurately sum up how I feel about the weaponry of Terrorists and just how the overall gameplay gels together. And the truth is, I really wish I would have played this mod much earlier in Doom Mod Madness. In fact, I'm pretty sure if I would have covered this during year 1 of Doom Mod Madness, this mod would have blown my tiny little mind, because it is ridiculously solid. It was when it released in 2012, it still is now. It's just that since the inception of Doom Mod Madness, I have been comprehensively spoiled. If you need some idea of how skewed my perspective has become over the years after playing through countless ridiculous gameplay mods, you should know that the only weapon in Terrorists that actually does anything for me at this point is the heavy machine gun here, and the reason should be obvious: it gives me the dagger. It gives me the dagger I desperately crave. I have become a dagger fiend. I genuinely feel like I've developed a problem. Is there a Dackers Anonymous that I can visit anywhere? I need to rid myself of this demon. But on a more serious note, Terrorists is a victim of just aging, really. Other mods have come out in the meantime that have evolved the concepts at play here and improved on them. The mod I mentioned earlier is a prime example, Cola 3, and it's just unfortunate that I played that before I played this, because Cola 3 pretty much does a lot of the same stuff as Terrorists, but in a much more entertaining fashion for yours truly. Don't take anything that I've said here to mean that you should sleep on this particular mod, however, because Terrorists is a mod very much worthy of revisiting. It was a rock-solid mod for 2012 when it was released. It is a rock-solid mod now. The only personal detriment to the experience I can really think of is the fact that the rate of progress when it comes to upgrading weapons can be quite frustratingly slow, but I acknowledge where that may be necessary when it comes to certain more powerful weapons in the arsenal. To that end, this is very much a mod that works best in the long-haul capacity, often requiring map packs that are on the more generously proportioned side, especially if you want to get busy with upgrading as many of your weapons as possible. However, I would advise against Valiant unless you're feeling particularly masochistic, because after a certain point, you're going to run into this level. And this level, on vanilla, features a lot of Archviles, but in Terrorists, the Archviles are replaced by dual Uzi-wielding douchebags, and you don't get a lot of notice before they absolutely hose you down. I dare say, if I had the choice, I would actually pick the Archviles. I know, shocking, I know. What have you done with the real Icarus? I don't know. I don't know. In any case, this is a fascinating mod to check out if you're familiar, or even if you're not familiar, with Wild Weasel's other works such as Cola. You can clearly see the nascent ideas that have been developed on over the years, and yeah, it's a fascinating stepping stone that still remains pretty goddamn solid to this day. But on that note, if you're interested in giving this a whirl for yourself, you'll find the link, as usual, in the description below. While I'm at it, I'd like to give a great big thank you to my wonderful patrons over on Patreon. Thank you so very much for supporting the channel, and thank you for helping to make content like this possible. If you're interested in lending a hand yourself, maybe you'd like to see your name in the credits, or maybe you'd like to get your hands on early editions of Doom Mod Madness before everyone else, well, in that case, you'll find the link to my Patreon page also in the description below. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Feel free to let me know what you thought in the comments, and feel free to suggest any mods you'd like to see me cover in future episodes of Doom Mod Madness. This has been Mr. Icarus. Thank you very much for watching. Icarus out.